Okay, guys. So lesson 2.5, so unit 2, lesson 5, we're doing solve equations using square roots and cube roots. You can tell this lesson is going to be a little bit shorter. I'm just going to show you an example each. They show you this actually in the examples. You probably may get enough from that, but I thought I'd go over it with a little bit of talking so you understood what was going on. It says the essential question is how can you solve equations with squares and cubes? So in example 2, they give you x cubed equals 64, and they want you to solve that. Okay, guys? Now here's what you need to understand. Okay? The point is here is that we have opposites here. If you have a square root, the opposite of that is having squared. Okay, so if I have the square root of x, the opposite of that is x squared. The same thing goes for a cubed root of x. The opposite is x cubed. So they cancel each other out when we're trying to balance an equation. So in other words, when I have an equation like x cubed equals 64, I want to isolate the variable x. I want to get it by itself. So I'm going to get x by itself by doing the cubed root. The cubed root will cancel out this cubed. But don't forget, in order to balance the equation, we need to then do the cubed root also of 64. So this cancels this out, and then x is by itself. Now, we can find the cubed root by simply going through and doing it on a calculator. But if you don't have a calculator handy, this is how we do it. Okay, so what you do is you take 64, okay, and we're going to go through and we're going to break this down. We know that 8 multiplied by 8 is 64, correct? Okay, then we have 2 multiplied by 4, and again 2 multiplied by 4. Now, these ones are final. Those are prime numbers. So we're trying to find the prime factorization here. So then we're going to do the same here. 2 and 2, 2 and 2. Now, because this is a cubed root, okay, then what we want to do is we're going to match them up in cubes, okay? So in other words, the cubed root, what we would do is we would cancel out, okay? So in other words, if I go through, now if we were squaring, we just cancel out 2 of them, okay? So in other words, for every 2, we're good to go, and we would know our squared is 8, right? Because we've got 2 here, okay? Cancel out half of them, okay? But with this one, we have to cancel out even more, okay? So in other words, we pair them up, and these are gone, and these are gone. And so I have left 2 multiplied by 2, which is 4. So in other words, the cubed root of 64 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 16 is 64. Okay, guys? So that's all we're looking at there. So like I said, you can do this on the calculator, but you can also go through and do it so that you have the trees. Okay, guys? Now, example 3 is pretty simplistic, all right? So all we're looking at is this. 11 is a prime number. We know this. And they're looking for the cubed root. We can't do anything. All we can do is we cancel out the cubed root, or the cubed, by taking the cubed root. Those are gone. That isolates A, and A is by itself. But I also have to take the cubed root of this. So that means that A is the cubed root of 11. That's all it is for that one. Okay? Now, where it gets a little tricky is, if people can get messed up here, now remember, this is odd, so it's just going to be positive, okay? But this one here, the c squared equals 27. Now don't get confused because you're doing both cubed and squared, right? And so we know there's a cubed root of 27. That would be 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 9 is 27. But we're looking for the squared root, and that doesn't work, okay? So in other words, I'm going to still do the same thing. I'm going to take the squared root here, and I'm going to take the squared root here. These cancel these out. C is on its own. However, because we can have two negatives make a positive, okay, then this ends up being plus or minus the square root of 27. So in other words, this would be a positive or a negative. Let me show you a real example, okay? Let's look at it this way, okay? If we were looking at the square root of 4, we know that that is 2. 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. However, what we actually need to do is to realize that it is 2 or negative 2, because a negative multiplied by a negative is a positive, and negative 2 multiplied by negative 2 is a positive 4. Okay, guys? So, once again, make sure you watch the lecture, make sure you take notes, make sure you go through and watch the examples, then go through and do the Excel and come to class ready to ask questions. All right, guys? Okay, hope everything's going well. Stay safe. We'll talk to you soon.